two containers, one for Nginx and another for MySQL using Docker Compose. So one is we need to install Docker Compose. Even Docker is required, but Docker is already installed. Let's update and use sudo apt-get update and sudo apt-get install Docker Compose. Nothing much, just a simple command. So when we install Docker Compose, we can see Docker Compose. Okay, this is the location for its binary. User bin Docker Compose. So Docker Compose is installed. Now we need to create a directory. Always create a directory, and inside that we'll write a YML file which has the definition for the running multiple containers, and it will be in a YML format. Okay, so generally we should use docker-compose.yml only, and just copy it. So in this we are running two containers. Okay, the first container block is this one, Nginx. Okay, we are calling it as services. Okay, and the second block is of MySQL. Here we are using Nginx image. Okay, this Nginx image again will by default will be downloaded from Docker Hub. Okay, and we are mapping port 8080 of this local host or host, that is DevOps VM, to port 80 inside the container. Okay, Nginx runs on port 80, so we are mapping port 8080 to 80. And for MySQL we are using MySQL, okay, 5.7 image. Okay, and whenever we install a MySQL, we need to provide the password. Okay, the root password. So MySQL root password is one of the variables they have already defined in the MySQL image, so we need to pass it. Okay, so this will be the password which I will be used to connect to the MySQL container. Here just for the demo purpose I have not used the port. Okay, so to access the MySQL container, we'll go inside the container and access it. The main aim is to see how to launch multiple containers using a single Docker Compose file. Okay, so the command would be Docker Compose up. Okay, so wherever you have Docker Compose.yml, from that location just use Docker Compose up. Okay, and we need to use sudo. That's why it gave an error. We have this Docker Compose file. Just to sudo Docker Compose up. Okay, so if you see, it started creating the containers. It is downloading the images and it will start the containers now. So both are started, okay, but I used only command Docker Compose up. I didn't use it in a detached mode. So this terminal will be in use. We'll have to go to the next terminal and check the contents. So in the next one, we'll use -d. So there are multiple ways to check. Even the Docker commands will be useful. First, we'll check using Docker compose ps. Okay, so we need to be in that directory, the multi-container directory. Then only we'll be able to see that. Just do sudo docker compose ps. Again, I'll have to use sudo. Okay. So if you see, both the containers are running. One of them is MySQL, other one is Nginx. Okay, both are in up state. Here we have not mapped port of host, that is DevOps VM. So it is only showing the container port. MySQL runs on 3306. So inside the container it is working on 3306, and for Nginx we have mapped port 8080 of the host to the port 80 inside the container, so it is showing it. Okay, so the first part is of IPv4 and this is for IPv6. So let's go back to our terminal, and if I do Control C now, okay, it stopped. Okay, and when it stopped, Docker compose ps is showing that it is in exit state. Okay, now this is not the method we'll be using. We'll be always using -d. Okay, so that we are running in a detached mode and the terminal is not in use. So docker compose ps. Okay, both the containers are running. We can also check using docker ps, because at the backend it is using docker only to run the containers. So even in the docker ps we'll be able to see both the containers. Okay, now if I do curl localhost 8080, it will give the details of the default Nginx page, which is mapped to port 8080 of the host, and inside the container it is running on port 80. Now to get the detail, to enter inside the MySQL container, we'll use docker exec. Okay, execute an interactive terminal IT. Okay, for which container? For this MySQL bin bash attached to its shell to run the commands, and MySQL. Okay, it will give permission denied because we need to pass the password, and the password was my password. Okay, so we are connected. In short, we have seen how to create multiple containers using a single Docker Compose file.